At the final acquisition meeting, the culmination of 8 years of my life poured into resurrecting Logicraft Solutions. The moment meant to seal the $8 million deal with Vector Dynamics. My mother chose that precise instant to detonate our family dynamics. Of course, she'd simpered, beaming at Mr. Sterling, Vector's VP of Acquisitions, interrupting his discussion of integration timelines. Post-acquisition, it's only natural that our son Leo will be stepping in as CEO. He has the charisma, the natural leadership qualities needed for this exciting next phase. I remained perfectly still, my face a neutral mask, watching my brother Leo preen beside her. Leo, whose technical expertise extended to resetting his Wi-Fi router, being anointed leader of the complex software company I had single-handedly dragged back from the abyss. 8 years ago, I'd walked away from a stellar career as a lead software architect at Omnitech, sacrificing stock options and industry prestige to salvage my father's dying company. My helplessness now, in the face of this public familial ambush, was entirely strategic. A calculated performance. I had foreseen this betrayal, this pathetic display of sexism and blind favoritism. Years ago, my counteroffensive was already in place. Locked and loaded the core patents for the revolutionary Phoenix platform technology, Vector Dynamics was paying $8 million for were filed securely under my name. Executed before I ever signed an employment contract with Logicraft. My mother, in her arrogance, thought she was securing Leo's future. She had no idea she had just handed me the keys to dismantle theirs. I am Catherine Sinclair, 41 years old. My life's trajectory had been clear top of my class in computer science. Recruited straight into Omnitech. Rapidly promoted to lead architect on their flagship cloud project. I was respected, highly compensated, living comfortably in my downtown condo. Then came the phone call 8 years ago. Logicraft Solutions. The company my father founded in the optimistic dial-up era was drowning. Their flagship logistics software, a relic coded in COBOL and prayers, was hemorrhaging clients. Competitors with sleek, modern platforms were eating their lunch. They'd taken out disastrous loans, mismanaged funds, and were 3 months, maybe less, from total collapse. My mother had wept hysterically. My father, his pride shattered, had mumbled about bankruptcy, about losing the house, about failing his father's memory. We need you, Kathy. He'd pleaded, just for a little while. Your business sense, your tech knowledge. Leo's still finding his feet. Leo, my charming, perpetually adrift younger brother. While I was pulling all-nighters debugging code in college, he was mastering the art of the fraternity party. While I was architecting complex systems at Omnitech, he was bouncing between entry-level marketing gigs, always full of buzzwords, always blaming others for his lack of progress. His advice when I told him I was considering leaving Omnitech to help a breezy text from a beach in Thailand, sis. Seriously, Logicraft equals dinosaur. Cut bait. User big brain, for something cool. Leaving Omnitech wasn't logical. It was visceral. It was about that dusty office photo of my grandfather, a brilliant engineer himself, handing the keys to a much younger, hopeful version of my father. It was about the employees, some of whom had been there since the beginning, their livelihoods tied to this sinking ship. It was, I told myself, about family legacy. So I walked away from Omnitech. My boss had looked at me like I'd announced I was joining the circus. Catherine, you're throwing away a career trajectory most engineers only dream of. For this I didn't have a good answer. Not one he would understand. The reality at Logicraft was worse than I'd imagined. It wasn't just outdated tech, it was systemic mismanagement, mountains of debt, and a complete lack of strategy. My parents, while good people at heart, were simply overwhelmed, clinging to outdated methods and paralyzed by fear. Leo, When he finally returned from his Finding Himself tour, offered suggestions like, maybe we should get on TikTok, and spent most of his time charming the receptionist. He lasted 6 months in a vaguely defined business development role before declaring the environment too stagnant for his talents and convincing our parents to fund his executive MBA, an expensive undertaking the company absolutely could not afford, further draining resources. For the first 2 years, I barely slept. I reverse-engineered decades of terrible code. I flew across the country, personally meeting with angry clients, begging for patience, promising change. I negotiated brutal terms with creditors. I laid off long-term employees, people I'd known since childhood. A task that left me physically ill but was necessary for survival. I poured every cent of my savings, nearly $200, ling ling ling, into keeping payroll afloat and upgrading essential servers. I cashed out my Omnitech stock options. I sold my condo and moved into a tiny rental. Driving a 10-year-old Civic, I lived and breathed Logicraft's survival. And in the background, late at night, in absolute secrecy on my personal laptop, I began building Phoenix. It wasn't just an update, it was a complete reimagining. A cloud-native, AI-driven logistics optimization platform. Modular, secure, light years ahead of anything Logicraft had ever produced. And frankly, ahead of most competitors. It was my lifeboat, my escape hatch, when the core architecture was solid, when the foundational algorithms were proven. Before I officially took the title of Chief Technology Officer, a title my father grudgingly gave me when it became undeniable I was running the show, I met with my personal patent attorney. We filed rigorously, internationally, covering every unique aspect of the Phoenix platform. It cost a fortune, money I could barely afford. But I knew, with the certainty of a programmer finding a critical bug, that it was essential insurance against the inevitable family dynamics. My parents never asked about the details of the new system. They just knew it was working. They were happy the ship wasn't sinking anymore. Leo, between his MBA classes, occasionally asked if I could simplify the interface so he could understand the demos better. Phoenix worked. It didn't just save Logicraft, it made it a star. Industry analysts took notice. Major clients signed on. Revenue didn't just recover, it exploded, which attracted Vector Dynamics. The negotiation process was intense. 6 months of deep dives, technical reviews, and financial audits. I led every single meeting. I answered every technical question. I built the financial models. My parents attended the initial meet and greet and the final celebratory dinner. Beaming proudly, Leo flew in for the final signing meeting, looking tanned and rested from a post-MBA trip, ready to claim his inheritance. Which brought us to this moment. Sterling, Vector's VP, was looking expectantly at me. My mother was radiating smug certainty. Leo was practically vibrating with entitlement. My father looked uncomfortable but resigned. That's an interesting suggestion, Mrs. St. Clair, Sterling repeated, his gaze flicking briefly towards his legal counsel at the end of the table. As I said, our offer is predicated on Catherine's continued leadership. The Phoenix platform is complex. Its value lies not just in the code, but in the deep domain knowledge required to evolve and support it. We need the architect to remain at the helm. My mother, completely missing the steel beneath Sterling's polite tone, waved her hand again. Oh, Catherine will certainly stay on, in a vital role, perhaps Chief Innovation Officer. We need her technical skills. But Leo. She placed a proprietary hand on Leo's arm. Leo has the strategic mindset. He sees the forest, not just the trees. He'll be the face of the company, the leader. It was blatant. She saw me as the worker bee, Leo as the king. Leo jumped in, eager to prove his worth. Exactly. My focus will be on market expansion, leveraging synergies, building the brand narrative. Catherine's brilliant. No doubt. But she's always been more comfortable behind a keyboard than in front of a client. His arrogance was breathtaking. He had no idea Sterling had personally witnessed my technical presentations that had blown Vector's own engineers away. He had no idea I had single-handedly negotiated the key partnership clauses in the acquisition agreement. He was a fool, performing for an audience that wasn't buying it. Villain, mistake, arrogant stupidity. Underestimation. My father shifted nervously. We believe in playing to strengths. Leo connects with people. Catherine builds the engine. It's a perfect partnership. A weak, transparent attempt to salvage the situation. Sterling didn't even look at my father. His eyes were locked on me. He knew the decision rested here. Catherine, he said again, his voice dropping slightly. Cutting through the family nonsense. Is this leadership structure, with your brother as CEO, acceptable to you? The air crackled. My mother glared daggers at me. A silent command to comply. Leo straightened his tie, anticipating his coronation. My father held his breath. I let the silence stretch for a beat. Enjoying the discomfort I saw dawning on my mother's and brother's faces, they were finally realizing I held power here. Mr. Sterling, I began, my voice perfectly calm, betraying none of the cold fury churning inside. I appreciate my family's confidence in my brother. However, given the technical intricacies of the Phoenix platform and the critical nature of the upcoming integration phase, ensuring continuity and stability is paramount. I paused, choosing my words carefully. There are certain foundational aspects regarding the platform's architecture and intellectual property that might necessitate a different structure to ensure a smooth transition for Vector Dynamics. It wasn't a yes. It wasn't a no. It was a carefully placed landmine. Intellectual property. I saw a flicker of confusion, then annoyance on Leo's face. He didn't understand the implication. My mother just looked impatient, eager to get back to planning Leo's corner office. My father, however, went very still. He knew my background. He knew my meticulous nature. A seed of doubt, perhaps fear, entered his eyes. Sterling, however, understood immediately. His expression sharpened. He glanced at his legal counsel, who gave an almost imperceptible nod. Complexities, Sterling repeated thoughtfully. Yes, I can see how that might be the case. He closed his leather-bound folder with a quiet snap, a sound that seemed to echo in the tense room. Well, clearly, we need to clarify this leadership point and these foundational aspects before finalizing. Perhaps Catherine and I could schedule a brief, separate follow-up call first thing Monday, just to drill down into the technical integration plan and ensure all IP matters are crystal clear. He looked directly at me, his gaze intense, pointedly, excluding my stunned family. Of course, Mr. Sterling, I said, my voice smooth as silk. Monday morning would be perfect. I'll ensure I have all the relevant documentation readily available. The subtext was clear. The deal was on hold. The power had shifted. My family sat there, stunned into silence, finally realizing the $8 million check wasn't guaranteed. And the competent daughter they'd taken for granted held the key. The meeting dissolved in a cloud of strained pleasantries. My mother tried to corner me afterwards, whispering furiously. What did you do? I just smiled enigmatically. Just ensuring a smooth transition. Mother. Leo tried to clap me on the back, muttering about teamwork. But I sidestepped him. As Sterling passed me on his way out, his handshake was firm. Monday, 9 a.m. My office, he murmured. A glint of respect. Perhaps even amusement. In his eyes. Be ready. Oh. I was ready. I had been ready for 8 years. Part 2. The strained smiles and awkward handshakes at the end of that meeting were almost comical. My parents attempted to corner Sterling for reassurances, but he politely extricated himself, giving me another one of those pointed looks before departing with his team. Leo, oblivious, was already talking loudly about his vision for the company's synergistic future to anyone who would listen. Mainly the bewildered receptionist. I simply collected my things, ignoring my mother's hissed whisper of, "We need to talk." "Catherine, now. I have client calls," I replied coolly, walking past her without breaking stride. Let them stew. Let them worry. Their panic was just beginning. Back in the relative quiet of my apartment that Friday evening, I didn't relax. I opened my secure laptop, connected my encrypted drive, and reviewed my plan. 8 years. It felt like a lifetime. I remembered the state Logicraft was in when I arrived. Servers held together with duct tape and hope. Code, so ancient, it felt archaeological. Demoralized employees polishing their resumes under flickering fluorescent lights. My father, a decent engineer in his day but utterly lost in the modern tech landscape, had been clinging to nostalgia. My mother, whose role had always been more social than operational, was focused on maintaining appearances, hosting increasingly desperate client appreciation events the company couldn't afford. Leo had been backpacking through Southeast Asia on their dime, sending occasional emails filled with vague ideas like, "Maybe we should leverage social media more," he'd returned briefly, declared the company culture uninspiring, and promptly enrolled in that overpriced executive MBA program, again, funded by loans secured against the failing business. His utter detachment, his assumption that the company would magically survive until he was ready to swoop in and claim leadership, had been infuriating even then. It was one of the key factors that solidified my decision to file the Phoenix platform patents under my own name. I saw the writing on the wall. I would do the work. Leo would get the credit. It was the story of my life in this family. Writ large, building Phoenix hadn't just been about saving the company. It had been about building my leverage. And building the team. Sarah-chan, my lead developer, was brilliant. She'd been a junior coder, overlooked and underutilized. When I arrived, I saw her talent immediately, mentored her, promoted her, trusted her. She, along with the core team, David database architect, Maria UI divided by UX lead, had worked alongside me during those brutal late nights and caffeine-fueled weekends. They knew who built Phoenix. They knew who understood its intricacies. They also knew how my parents treated me versus how they treated Leo. I hadn't needed to ask for their loyalty explicitly. It was forged in shared struggle and mutual respect. A stark contrast to the hollow entitlement Leo represented. I had made sure they were well compensated, given challenging projects, and publicly credited for their contributions. Everything my family failed to do for me. My alliance wasn't built on blood. It was built on merit. MC Strategy Alliance Builder. Saturday morning. My phone buzzed. It was Sterling's assistant, requesting that private call for Monday at 9 a.m. Perfect. Then came the inevitable barrage from my family. My mother, Catherine. "Your father is very upset. We need a family meeting tomorrow." My father, Kathy. "Let's not be hasty. Sterling is just doing due diligence. We'll smooth it over." Leo heard the meeting got weird. Lol. "Don't worry. I'll charm Sterling on Monday. Big leagues now, villain mistake self-incrimination." His arrogance was almost pathological. He truly believed his MBA, and a firm handshake outweighed 8 years of my proven results. I ignored them all. Sunday was spent finalizing my presentation for Sterling and running simulations for various scenarios. Monday morning, 8:45 a.m. I logged into the secure video call with Sterling from my apartment. He looked rested, sharp, ready for business. "Catherine," he began, dispensing with pleasantries. "Let's be direct. Your mother's announcement regarding your brother was unexpected and, frankly, concerning." Our offer values the Phoenix platform significantly, but that valuation is intrinsically tied to the talent that created and understands it. Namely, you and your core team. I understand your concern. Mr. Sterling, I replied, keeping my voice calm and professional. Continuity is essential, especially with a platform this complex. Exactly, he said. Your brother, Leo. Is it? While I'm sure he's a capable young man, his background appears to be primarily in marketing. That's correct, I confirmed. His technical expertise is limited. So I gathered, Sterling said dryly. Can he realistically lead the integration of this platform into Vector Dynamics' ecosystem? Can he manage the highly specialized team that built it? Here was my opening. I didn't need to attack Leo directly. I just needed to state facts. The Phoenix platform utilizes several proprietary algorithms and a unique architecture that I personally designed. I explained. The core development team has worked intimately with this specific codebase for years. Integrating it requires not just management skills, but deep, hands-on architectural knowledge to avoid critical disruptions. As for team management, I chose my words carefully. My developers are highly skilled, highly motivated engineers. They thrive on technical challenges and respect leadership that understands their work on a fundamental level. MC strategy misdirection, highlighting team loyalty as conditional on competence. Sterling absorbed this, nodding slowly. So, replacing you with someone lacking that deep technical knowledge, even someone with a fancy MBA, would introduce significant risk to the integration process and potentially jeopardize the platform's stability and future development. That would be a reasonable assessment. I agreed. I wasn't lying. Leo trying to manage Sarah and her team would be a 5-alarm fire. And the intellectual property, Sterling asked, his eyes sharp. You mentioned foundational aspects. Are there any encumbrances, any third-party licenses, or ownership ambiguities we should be aware of? This was the moment. I could reveal the patents now, but my plan required one more piece to fall into place. Misdirection was key. Logicraft Solutions currently holds the operational licenses, I said truthfully, omitting the crucial detail of who owned the underlying patents. All documentation is in order as provided during due diligence. Let him focus on leadership risk for now. The IP bomb was for later. I see, Sterling said, though I sensed he suspected there was more. Thank you, Catherine. That gives me considerable clarity. We may need to revisit the proposed leadership structure before finalizing the agreement. I'm confident we can find a structure that ensures a successful integration for Vector Dynamics. I replied smoothly. We ended the call. Phase 1 complete. Sterling's doubts about Leo were firmly planted. Now, I just needed Leo to water those seeds with his own incompetence. I didn't have to wait long. Tuesday afternoon, I received an automated security alert on my personal phone. An alert system I had embedded deep within the Phoenix platform's administrative backend years ago. Designed specifically to monitor unauthorized access attempts to the core code repositories. Use LS Sinclair. Access attempt core, algorithm, module, 7. Status, failed authentication error. Repeated 3 times. Villain mistake sloppiness. I smiled. Leo. The arrogant fool. He was actually trying to hack into the most sensitive part of the platform. Likely trying to prove to himself or Sterling that he could understand it. The permissions I'd set required multi-factor authentication tied directly to my credentials and specific IP addresses within the dev team's secure network. He wouldn't get past the first hurdle. But he had left a digital fingerprint. I took a screenshot of the alert log, timestamp included, and saved it to my encrypted drive. MC Strategy Investigator. Thank you. Leo. You just handed me Exhibit A. My phone rang almost immediately. It was my father. His voice was tight with forced calm. Kathy Sterling just called. He expressed some concerns about Leo's technical readiness. He wants another meeting. With everyone. To clarify roles. Did he? I asked innocently. Yes. What did you say to him? My father demanded. I simply answered his questions truthfully. Dad. About the platform's complexity and the need for experienced leadership. You made Leo look incompetent, he accused. Did I countered. Or did Leo manage that all by himself? There was a frustrated sigh on the other end. Look, Kathy, your mother is beside herself. Leo is furious. This deal, it's $8 million. Can't you just work with him, mentor him? Mentor him, I repeated, the word tasting like bile. I mentored him his entire life. Dad, I did his science projects. I helped him cram for exams he didn't study for. I built the company he thinks he's qualified to lead. My mentoring days are over. You wanted him in charge. You deal with the consequences. Catherine, this isn't a joke. Sterling put the acquisition on conditional hold, pending clarification. Bingo. The mini payoff. Sterling had done exactly what I'd anticipated. The pressure was now squarely back on my family. Then I suggest you, Mom, and Leo figure out how to clarify things. I said coolly, let me know what you decide. I hung up before he could respond. The cold satisfaction settling in. The trap was set. Now, it was time to let the arrogant mouse run right into it. The fallout from Sterling's conditional hold was immediate and predictable. My phone became a battlefield. Leo alternated between furious, misspelled texts, accusing me of sabotage, jalouse, trying to ruin this for me, and pathetic voicemails trying to buddy up, hey sis. Sterling seemed stressed. Maybe we should grab a drink and strategize. Villain meltdown tantrum. Pitiful groveling. My mother launched a full-scale emotional assault, tearful calls about how I was tearing the family apart. How Dad wasn't sleeping. How Grandpa Sinclair would be ashamed. My father attempted his usual weak mediation, suggesting ridiculous compromises like co-chief technology officers, where Leo would handle client-facing synergy and I would handle the actual work. I ignored them all. My resolve was absolute. They had made their bed. Now they could panic in it. I knew Leo's next move before he even made it. His arrogance wouldn't let him accept Sterling's doubts about his technical prowess. He had to prove he understood the Phoenix platform, even if only to himself. The security alerts I received late Tuesday night confirmed it LS Sinclair attempting to access Core, Algorithm, Module, 7. Failed. Then Core, Financial, Integration, API. Failed. Then Predictive, Analytics, Engine. Failed. He was like a toddler banging on a locked door. Too stupid to realize he didn't have the key, and too arrogant to stop trying. Each failed attempt was another nail in his coffin. Another time-stamped log entry for my collection. Villain mistake, arrogant stupidity. Sloppiness. Wednesday morning. I executed the next phase of my plan. I called an emergency strategic alignment meeting for the core development team. Sarah Chen, lead dev. David Miller, database architect. Maria Garcia, UI, dividido por UX lead. And the 4 senior engineers who formed the heart of Phoenix. Crucially, I held the meeting off-site, at a neutral conference room I'd booked downtown, specifically excluding my parents and Leo. MC Strategy Alliance Builder. They arrived looking tense but resolute. They knew something big was happening. I didn't waste time. Vector Dynamics has put the acquisition on hold, I stated flatly, primarily due to concerns about the proposed post-acquisition leadership structure. Namely, my parents' insistence on installing Leo as CEO. A collective groan went around the table. Sarah rolled her eyes. Leo, seriously. He asked me yesterday where the any key was on his keyboard. Exactly, I said. Sterling recognizes the risk, but my family is doubling down. Which brings us to the contingency plan I mentioned might become necessary. I took a deep breath. The core intellectual property. The patents for the Phoenix platform's architecture and algorithms. They aren't owned by Logicraft Solutions. They're owned by me. Filed before I officially rejoined the company. Silence. Then Sarah let out a low whistle. Catherine. You absolute genius. David grinned. I knew you had something up your sleeve. The way you structured those code repositories always felt insulated. It was insurance. I said simply. Insurance against exactly this scenario. Now, here's the situation. Vector Dynamics wants the platform and the team. My family wants the money, and Leo in charge. That's not going to happen. So, I'm presenting Sterling with an alternative vector acquires the IP directly from me. And I looked around the table at my team. Move over to Vector Dynamics as a new division. Led by me. To continue developing and integrating Phoenix. I laid out the potential compensation packages I'd already modeled. Based on Vector's likely offer structure. Significantly higher salaries. Stock options in a major corporation. R&D budgets they could only dream of at Logicraft. But it means walking away from Logicraft. From my family's company. Sarah didn't hesitate. Catherine. You are the company. Logicraft is just a name on a building that hasn't been updated since 1998. We built Phoenix with you. Wherever you go. We go. David nodded. Signed. Sealed. Delivered. Trying to explain database normalization to Leo last year almost gave me an aneurysm. Working directly for you at Vector sounds like heaven. Maria and the others echoed the sentiment. Unanimous. My carefully cultivated alliance was solid. Living witness payoff. Okay. I said. A surge of fierce loyalty, warming the cold anger in my chest. Then we're aligned. Sterling is calling a final meeting tomorrow to resolve the leadership issue. We attend together. Just as we were wrapping up, my phone buzzed. An email forwarded from Evelyn read. Milavier. It was from Leo. Sent directly to Mr. Sterling. My blood ran cold as I read it. Subject clarification on Phoenix platform collaboration. Dear Mr. Sterling. I'm writing to clear up any confusion regarding the Phoenix platform development. While my sister Catherine handled much of the initial coding, the core strategic architecture and innovative breakthroughs were very much a collaborative effort between us during my MBA studies. My focus was on ensuring market viability and scalability. Regarding the minor integration glitches you may have heard about, I believe these stem from Catherine perhaps being overly protective of her original code sections and not fully documenting recent updates for the team, an issue my more collaborative leadership style will quickly rectify. Looking forward to finalizing this exciting partnership. Best. Leo Sinclair. I stared at the screen. Speechless. The sheer, bald-faced audacity. The stupidity he was not only lying blatantly about his involvement but was actively trying to blame me for the access errors he himself had caused. Villain mistake self-incrimination. Desperate lie. He just handed me the smoking gun. Gift wrapped. You need to see this, I said, turning my laptop around for Sarah and the team to read. Sarah read it, her jaw tightening. That absolute. He's claiming collaboration. He thought Python was a snake until last year. And blaming you for the glitches he caused trying to hack the system, David added. Incredulous. He just sealed his fate, I said, a cold smile touching my lips. I forwarded the email back to Evelyn with a simple note. Add this to Exhibit B. Along with the server logs from last night. MC strategy trapsetter payoff. Thursday morning. The final meeting. The air in the Logicraft conference room was thick enough to cut with a knife. Sterling and 2 Vector Dynamics lawyers sat on one side. My parents, Leo, and their increasingly panicked-looking corporate lawyer sat on the other. I sat at the head of the table. Standing behind me, lining the back wall, were Sarah, David, Maria, and the 4 senior engineers. A silent, formidable presence. Mini payoff shock. My mother visibly flinched when she saw my team assembled. Leo tried to project confidence, but his eyes kept darting nervously towards the developers. My father just looked gray. Sterling began without preamble. We're here to finalize the leadership structure for the Logicraft integration. Since our last conversation, some communications have come to light which require immediate clarification. He looked directly at Leo. Mr. Sinclair, I received your email regarding your collaborative role in developing the Phoenix platform. Leo visibly brightened, assuming this was his moment. Yes, absolutely. Catherine is brilliant technically. But the strategic vision, the scalability architecture, that was very much a joint. Interesting. Sterling interrupted smoothly. Because the server access logs from Tuesday night show multiple failed attempts by your user account to access the core algorithm modules. Furthermore, he slid a document across the table. We have here patent filings for the core Phoenix architecture, filed by Catherine Sinclair personally, 18 months before Logicraft's records show the platform development officially began within the company. Silence. Leo's jaw dropped. My mother gasped. My father closed his eyes. Their lawyer shuffled his papers, looking utterly blindsided. Perhaps. Sterling continued, his voice dangerously soft. You could explain this discrepancy, Mr. Sinclair. And perhaps you could also explain why. According to this email you sent me, he slid a copy of Leo's disastrous email across the table. You seem to be blaming Catherine for glitches that coincide precisely with your own unauthorized and failed access attempts, public reversal and poetic justice beginning. Leo stared at the email, then at the patent information, his face turning a blotchy red. That's... It's taken out of context. She locked me out. Mr. Sterling. Sarah Chen stepped forward from the back wall, her voice clear and carrying in the stunned silence. I'm the lead developer for the Phoenix platform. I have been for 5 years. Leo Sinclair has never contributed a single line of code or a single architectural concept to this platform. The glitches were security lockouts triggered by unauthorized access attempts originating from his workstation on Tuesday night. The platform itself remains perfectly stable, thanks to Catherine's design. Isolation and betrayal beginning at Evan. Sterling looked at Sarah, then back at Leo, whose face had crumpled. Is this true? Mr. Sinclair. Leo opened his mouth, but only a strangled squeak came out. He looked desperately at our parents. My mother looked away. My father stared resolutely at the table. He was utterly, completely alone. Leo stood there, sputtering, his face cycling through shades of red and white. He looked like a fish gasping for air, completely out of his depth. His eyes darted between Sterling, Sarah Chen, and the damning evidence laid out on the table, his own foolish email, the implications of the server logs, the undeniable patent filings. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. For the first time in his life, Leo Sinclair, the golden boy, the charmer, had absolutely nothing to say. His usual arsenal of bluster, deflection, and blaming others was useless against cold, hard, irrefutable technical proof. He looked at our parents. Adespérate. Childish plea in his eyes. My mother stared rigidly ahead, her knuckles white where she gripped the edge of the table. Refusing to look at him, my father simply closed his eyes, a muscle twitching in his jaw, accepting the inevitable implosion. Leo's self-destruction, fueled by his own arrogant stupidity and enabled by our parents' blind favoritism, was complete. Villain's self-destruction complete. Sterling, ever the pragmatist, wasted no time. He turned his attention away from my brother's pathetic collapse and addressed Sarah Chen. Ms. Chen, he said, his voice crisp and professional. You stated you are the lead developer. Could you elaborate on the team's position regarding Catherine Sinclair's leadership? Sarah stepped forward, flanked by David and Maria. Her voice was steady, unwavering. Mr. Sterling, it's simple. Catherine is Logicraft's technical leadership. She architected the Phoenix platform. She mentored all of us. She built this team based on competence and mutual respect, not nepotism. She paused, then delivered the final blow. Logicraft Solutions. Without Catherine at the helm, and without the core IP she personally holds, is essentially worthless to an acquirer like Vector Dynamics. The platform cannot be maintained, let alone integrated or evolved, without her direct involvement or the team she trained. And to be perfectly clear, she looked around the room, meeting the eyes of every Vector executive. If Catherine walks, this entire development team walks with her. We are loyal to the architect, not to the name on the door. Isolation and betrayal complete. Living witness payoff. The unified declaration hung in the air. An undeniable statement of fact. My parents looked utterly poleaxed. They had always treated the employees like interchangeable parts, assuming their loyalty was to the company, to the family name. They had never comprehended that loyalty. Real loyalty is earned through leadership, respect, and competence, qualities I possessed and Leo utterly lacked. They had alienated their most valuable assets, not just me, but the entire brain trust of the company. Sterling allowed a moment of silence for the full weight of Sarah's statement to land. Then, he turned to his legal counsel. Mr. Davies. The lawyer nodded crisply. Based on the clear evidence of prior patent ownership by Ms. Catherine Sinclair personally, he stated, and the material misrepresentation regarding leadership continuity presented by Mr. Reshin and Mrs. Sinclair and Mr. Leo Sinclair. Vector Dynamics hereby formally withdraws its offer of $8 million for the acquisition of Logicraft Solutions. Effective immediately. My mother let out a small, strangled gasp. My father slumped in his chair as if struck. Leo just stared blankly ahead, the fight completely gone out of him. But Sterling wasn't finished. He turned back to me, a shrewd, calculating glint in his eyes. However, Catherine, he said, his tone shifting, becoming warmer, more collegial. Vector Dynamics remains extremely interested in the Phoenix platform and the exceptional team you have built. He slid a different document across the table towards me, a new term sheet, thicker than the previous one. We are prepared to extend a new offer, Sterling announced, his voice carrying clearly through the stunned silence. To acquire the patents and all associated intellectual property for the Phoenix platform directly from you, Catherine Sinclair, for a sum of $10 million. Final inversion, beginning. $10 million, my father whispered, his eyes wide. Furthermore, as Sterling continued, ignoring him, we propose the creation of a new advanced logistics division within Vector Dynamics. We offer you the position of Executive Vice President, leading this division, with full autonomy over its technical direction and budget. We will, of course, extend offers to your core team, Ms. Shen, Mr. Miller, Ms. Garcia, and the engineers present at compensation levels commensurate with their expertise and Vector Dynamics standards, including significant stock options. He smiled, a genuine smile this time. Essentially, Catherine, we want to buy your brilliance, and we want to give you and your team the resources and the platform to take Phoenix global without unnecessary complications. The implication was crystal clear. He was offering me everything my family had denied me: recognition, leadership, financial reward, and a future built on merit, not birthright. He was cutting them out completely. I looked at the term sheet. $10 million for the IP I owned. An executive VP title at a major corporation. a guaranteed future for my loyal team. It was more than I had dared to hope for. It was total victory. I looked across the table at my family. My mother looked like she was going to faint. My father stared at the withdrawn Logicraft offer. Then at the new term sheet in front of me, the brutal math clicking into place. Leo just looked empty, defeated, stripped bare of his arrogance. There was nothing left. He felt nothing. No pity. No lingering guilt. Just a cold, clean sense of vindication. They had made their choices, blinded by arrogance and entitlement. They had underestimated me, dismissed me, and tried to discard me. And now, they were facing the consequences. Poetic justice. Indeed. I picked up a pen. I looked directly at Sterling. Mr. Sterling, I said, my voice clear and steady. On behalf of myself and my team, we accept. Aftermath. Epilogue. The transition was swift and decisive. Vector Dynamics' legal team handled the IP transfer flawlessly. Logicraft Solutions, stripped of its core technology and its entire development team, became an empty shell overnight. My parents were left with a company name, an outdated building lease, and a handful of demoralized administrative staff. The $8 million deal vanished, replaced by the stark reality of their company's true worth, without me practically zero. They quietly liquidated the remaining assets a few months later for pennies on the dollar. Barely enough to cover outstanding debts. Final inversion complete. Leo, disgraced and exposed as incompetent, found the job market considerably less welcoming than he'd anticipated. His executive MBA couldn't compensate for a reputation tarnished by arrogance and dishonesty. Last I heard, through the grapevine, he was back, living with my parents, trying to launch some vague consulting venture out of his old bedroom. The natural leader was grounded. My parents and I maintain a strictly minimal SOCANT, almost non-existent, relationship. There were no apologies. Only bitter accusations initially, followed by a strained, wounded silence. My mother occasionally sends passive-aggressive emails about the importance of family forgiveness, which I delete unread. My father has retreated into a quiet, resigned bitterness. They lost their company, their anticipated fortune, and in the process, they lost their daughter. Some legacies are built, others are squandered. As for me, life has been exceptional. As Executive Vice President of Vector Dynamics' Advanced Logistics Division, I have the resources, the autonomy, and the brilliant team I always deserved. Phoenix is thriving, integrated across Vector's global operations, exceeding all performance expectations. Sarah is my Director of Engineering. David heads up data architecture. Maria leads product design. We work hard. We innovate. And we are recognized and rewarded for our actual contributions. My compensation package, including stock options, far exceeds the $10 million valuation for the IP. I didn't just get my due, I exponentially surpassed it. 6 months after the acquisition, I stood on the stage at Vector Dynamics' annual Innovation Summit, accepting an award for the Phoenix platform's impact. Sterling stood beside me, beaming, looking out at the audience, at my team cheering in the front row. I felt a profound sense of peace. The betrayal, the years of being undervalued, the ugly confrontation, they hadn't broken me. They had forged me. My worth was never tied to my family's approval. It was built line by line, algorithm by algorithm, success by success. My true legacy isn't the Sinclair name. It's the technology I created, and the team that believed in competence over connections. Sometimes, the greatest victories aren't just about winning, they're about proving, unequivocally, that you earned the right to stand tall on your own. Family dynamics can be complicated, and sometimes the people closest to us fail to see our true value. Have you ever had to fight for recognition in your own family or workplace? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience might empower someone else. We believe in the strength found in shared stories. Thank you for watching. And if this resonated with you, please give it a thumbs up. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And subscribe for more stories about overcoming challenges and finding your own path.